One.
Okay, welcome everyone to today's Town of Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is April 22nd, 2021. This meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please let us know. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and his March 23rd order, that's 2020, imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Chatham Zoning Board is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, and then you punch in the conference ID number, which is 126-208-137, and then hit the pound. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. We'll now have a roll call of the board members to authorize this remote participation form of meetings. So please give your name, and if you got a middle initial, throw that in. Dave Veach.
David H. Veach, yes. Present.
Paul C. Semple, yes.
Buck.
James M. Upson, present.
Dave Thompson.
David R. Thompson, present.
Dennis.
Dennis Sullivan, present.
Megan.
Megan V. Story, present.
Bill.
William W. Grau, present.
And I am David S. Nixon. Okay. To begin today, we have a guest, and our guest is Allie Sabatino. Allie is the principal planner for the town of Chatham. She's one of the number of excellent employees we have, and we thank you, Allie, for joining us. And she has a presentation. Following that, we will have questions or comments from the members of the zoning board. So, Allie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. I'm sorry for those who can't see it, but I would be happy to forward the PowerPoint presentation around after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Make sure. Okay.
Yes.
I know we're having just a few problems. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I
Great.
can see it.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for having us here tonight. I am here with Frank Messina. He's the chair of the Historical Commission, and we're presenting a draft historic preservation incentive bylaw, variations of dimensional requirements. So, as you know, there's been, a loss of historic structures in town. So the Historical Commission, along with community development staff, have been working on creating a bylaw to allow flexibility for dimensional requirements to preserve historic structures in town. So basically, we've been working for about a year and a half internally and with the Historical Commission on this bylaw, but the planning board was looking at it a number of years ago as well. So it's been in the works for a while, but we're really picking it up because, again, like I said, we've noticed that there's been a real loss of historic structures, and we're hoping to prepare some incentives to keep the historic structures intact. So what's the purpose? So the purpose of the bylaw is to allow permitting flexibility of dimensional requirements that might be an impediment to historic preservation. This bylaw gives the ZBA, so the Zoning Board of Appeals, the authority to issue a special permit which modifies certain dimensional standards on existing lots. And this is, again, just strictly for the preservation of historic structures or buildings. And we define that in the next slide. I'll go through that in more detail. But again, this is strictly just for historic structures. We're allowing this flexibility. So what does this apply to? So it would be for eligible historic buildings again. And which is defined in the Chatham General Bylaw. We're proposing currently that it's in all zoning districts. These incentives are proposed for primary structures and not to be utilized for accessory buildings. So if there was a brand new primary structure, but they had a shed on the lot that was, 75 years or older, we wouldn't consider that eligible for this preservation, for this bylaw, because we really want to make sure that we're preserving the historic structures, not just an accessory building. So what is the definition of a historic building? So it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places, or it's designated as a contributing structure in the National Register District. Another option is it's listed on the State Register of Historic Places, or it's been designated by the Chatham Historical Commission to be historically significant building or structure. So those are the only eligible structures that would be able to apply for this incentive. So here, and if it's hard to see, I have another map as well. And again, I would be happy to share these after the presentation if board members want to look more closely at this. But the map on the screen shows all of the Macris inventory. So those are the historic structures in town. We have here the Old Village, which is highlighted in this black outline. We do also show the HBDC district, which is in this yellow kind of outline here. We have conservation restrictions because we felt that that was an important aspect to add to this map to show. And we have in the red color, which as you can see on the map, kind of sporadic around here, we identify those historic parcels that have a structure that exceeds the building footprint. So those historic structures would not be eligible for this incentive, or they would be eligible for this incentive, but they have another avenue to go through a special permit. So we feel that they probably wouldn't apply for this incentive because, as you can see, as we go forward, we are recommending a preservation restriction to be placed on the historic structures if they use this proposed incentive. So we feel that those structures that already exceed the coverage allowed would probably not use this incentive. But we do have in these blue colors here, the lots that do not exceed, from what we can tell, building coverage. And so there's about, see this, I did a calculation before. There's about 592 parcels that this could potentially be applied for. And it just shows you the different locations in town. Granted, this is done through a GIS map, so it's not completely, specific, but it's just a good generalization to show you potentially how many could apply for this incentive, how many would not be eligible, and how many total parcels there are that are historic in town. So moving on to the special permit priority. So when granting special permits under this incentive bylaw, we want to, obviously, the priority is for the historic buildings and structures that are located on the lot where they originated. But we really wanted to make sure that this bylaw had some flexibility, just in case, and I think the ZBA has seen this in the past, that if you're moving a historic structure, you want to save the historic structure, but you're moving it to a different lot. We wanted to make sure that you could also use this incentive. So we added that in the bylaw to allow if a historic structure is moved to a different lot, but they are preserving the historic structure, you could potentially use this incentive bylaw. However, that's obviously not the first priority. We want you to be able to keep the house on the lot where it was originated. Okay. And as just a caveat too, and we added this in the bylaw to make 100% sure, the incentive is transferable to the new lot where the historic structure is to go, but we wanted to make 100% sure that everyone knows if you do take this historic structure and you move it to a different lot, the lot where you've moved it from is not eligible for this incentive. So we really wanted to close that loophole. Okay, so incentives for historic building preservation. So what are these incentives that I keep talking about? We're proposing currently 2 incentives. The first one is for building coverage. So the Zoning Board of Appeals may allow by special permit to waive building coverage requirements to incentivize the reuse of historic structures. The building coverage incentive calculation shall be as follows. The maximum by right building coverage allowed in the dimensional requirements of the protective zoning bylaw multiplied by a factor of no greater than 1.25. And so I just have some examples here of how that would look potentially. So for a 20,000 square foot lot, right now the current building coverage is 2,800 square feet. So that's what is allowed by right under our bylaw. If we use this calculation, they would be allowed to have 3,500 square feet of building coverage. So that's an incentive or an increase of 700 square feet of building coverage. And we really wanted to make this a sliding scale because we felt that, you know, if we did 1% for each lot, for each zoning district, it would potentially create inequities, I guess you could say, between small lots and large lots. So we really wanted to make sure it was a sliding scale. So as another example, if you had a 25,000 square foot lot, currently the by right building coverage is about 2,900 square feet. So if you use this incentive, that would increase it to 3,625 square feet. So that's a total increase of 725 square feet. So you would allow an additional 725 square feet of building coverage. I'll skip down to 40,000 square feet. So right now you're allowed by right 4,000 square feet. And if you use this incentive, you'd be allowed 5,000. So that's an increase of 1,000 square feet. So those are just some examples of how much additional building coverage you would be allowed under this bylaw. So the second incentive that we're proposing is to allow relief from the building setbacks. So the Zoning Board of Appeals may, by special permit, waive the abutter setbacks in all zoning districts. So again, we just specifically wanted it to be abutter setbacks. So we specifically said that in all zoning districts of up to 1.5 the minimum required setback in the zoning district, but in no case less than 5 feet. So we wanted to make really sure that you're not right up on the property line. We wanted to give a little space, but obviously still give an incentive. And I do believe that this map was passed around to the members before, but I'll just kind of quickly go through it. So this is a map that shows, or a diagram that shows how this historic preservation incentive could work. So basically, up here on this top row, we have a house that would not have this additional incentive, so would not have additional building coverage. And it wouldn't be preserved. So this would be potentially what the house could look like and how much land that it could, take. The second line here is a historic home. So that's in the white. And it's added in the pink, this additional square footage that would be allowed under this incentive. So we just showed 2 examples that would allow, this additional piece of a house, to be built to create, with the idea that the historic structure be preserved. So what is the special permit process? So prior to the special permit procedures, the initiation of these procedures, the Historical Commission shall make a determination of eligibility for this incentive. If the Historical Commission determines that the property is eligible, the applicant may proceed with the special permit procedures. A written determination of historical significance must accompany applications for special permit. So we wanted to make it really clear here that you have to go to the Historical Commission, make sure it is eligible, so get a determination of eligibility, and then you're allowed to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, because we really want to give the ZBA as much information as possible prior to the applicant coming to the board. So the findings required. So if you can see my screen, I put in bold the numbers 4 through 12, and that is your current findings for the ZBA. We really wanted to add those in there because we thought that they were significant, and we thought that they would just bolster the special permit. So we left those in there, but the first 3 we kept, we added new ones that would be just specifically for this incentive. So the first one is that the modification of standards and requirements authorized are necessary to maintain the eligible historic buildings on the site on which it was originally constructed, or relocate to another site deemed appropriate by the special permit granting authority as advised by the Historical Commission. Number 2, that the proposed renovation, repair, adaptive reuse, or removal preserves to the maximum extent feasible the historical and architectural features of the building. And 3, failure to grant the special permit is likely to result in inappropriate use or physical modification of a demolition permit. So we really wanted to add those really specific items in there. I believe we took this from another bylaw from a different town that, you know, was proposing some of the same incentives that we were. So conditions to be imposed. We want to have, you know, some teeth to make sure that if we are giving these incentives, these dimensional variation incentives, we want to make sure that the historic structure is preserved. So we are currently proposing a preservation restriction if the permit is granted. So you would have to do a preservation restriction. We also add in here that if for some reason in the event of damage, loss, or full demolition of the historic structure for some reason after this, you cannot use this incentive. And if you wanted to rebuild the structure, you would have to go back to the dimensional standards that are required under our bylaw. So you could not use this incentive. So we wanted to make 100% sure that there was no loopholes there. And so that is the end of my slide show. Again, we're here for any questions, comments. We're looking for any comments that you have, any feedback, because we just think it creates a better bylaw. And so we're open to any comments. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Ally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each member if they can comment, they can ask questions, they can do whatever they wish. So I would start with Dave Veach, please.
Thanks, Dave. Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the Historical Commission for pursuing a positive incentive approach to modify the zoning bylaw. And I did, actually, Ally, I had a conversation with Ally, so she probably knows a few of my comments, but so I will just reiterate the ones that I had some concern about anyway, or questions. The first one would be that on the proposed, the 3 proposed new findings that they're asking about, and finding number 3, the failure to grant the special permit is likely to result in inappropriate use or physical modification or pursuit of a demolition permit. And I'm just trying to think through how we determine that, because I see where the applicant would certainly present it. Well, if we don't get the special permit, we're going to have to demolish the building. But I don't know that we can just take their word for that. I'm a little concerned about that. So, I just think we should think about that, or the proponent should think about that somewhat. I also said, this just popped in my mind, so this is a new concern I didn't discuss with Ally, but if it seems to me that we are in, as part of the incentive, in at least certain instances via increased lot coverage or whatever, we are saying, this is saying, well, in order, it is an incentive to help preserve an older structure, older home, that we're going to allow you to add on, most likely, laterally, if you're going to take advantage of the greater lot coverage. And so I guess I haven't thought how that meshes with our existing criteria, especially when it comes to when we're talking about impact on neighborhood visual character, et cetera, et cetera. I would think that we also might be concerned with the compatibility of the additions with respect to the historical structure, how they relate to that, how they, how they appear in relation to it. And I would think that, the Historical Commission would probably help give us input on something like that. So that's another thought that just came to mind during the presentation. The only other thing that that I would say is, and Ally, I've been looking at the map over that you had sent me the copy of, and that does identify many of the existing situations. I've kind of tried to look at it closely with more of an idea, because I thought about it and I realized that I looked at, we have something that may be coming before us soon on a property that is in the floodplain and does have a historic structure on it. And that one doesn't appear as red on the map, which of course it wouldn't, but when you get into some locations, it's percentage of buildable upland. So there might be some minor, but by and large, it looks like the map is pretty good as far as identifying things. And then the last piece then that I did say to Ally was that I thought that I felt they needed to work on the second of the conditions that seeking to be imposed, because when you get down here to saying that, in the event of a damage, loss, or full demolition to the historic home, that then you have to give up the incentives that were given. My comment to her was that, I just don't see that that's. I mean, I understand trying to tighten up the
Right.
close it off, but if someone has gone through the trouble and gone through the takes to do this and saved the old structure, and then God, a fire, it's lost to a fire. I don't see the town saying, well, you lost your home to a fire, and now you've lost the incentives. You can't rebuild as much house as you had there. So I think you need to think about that. And because that to me is not what the town is saying for property owners. So those are my comments. Sorry for the extent of it, but I'll hand the baton off. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dave. So, Paul, your questions or comments, please.
Well, this is Paul Semple. I agree with David that the taking a positive approach to this is a good idea, and I think it's important. The concern I had was in the criteria, number 3, the new criteria, which talks about our making a finding of inappropriate use or physical modification that failure to grant a special permit is likely to result in inappropriate use or physical modification. I'm not quite sure how that would actually be determined, because I'm not sure what is inappropriate if you are actually preserving the historical building. So, in other words, if, for instance, the use is going to be as a family room or as a entertainment center, if that use is in fact still going to preserve the historical nature of the building, I'm not sure how we're going to apply a standard there that's actually going to be able to be defined. So that was the area that I had some concern with, number 3. Other than that, I think we should go forward with this concept.
Okay, Buck, your comments or questions?
Yeah, Ally, I do support it, and I know that the Historic Commission has worked so hard for so many years to find a solution to this, and it's been difficult. From my background, you've done an excellent job defining the problem, and that's how to save these, and how to preserve them, and how to find a way to permit or provide incentives. You've provided what your team or whoever the team is. This is the solution that they feel is best. I haven't I haven't studied this at all. I waited for this presentation, and I know that a lot of times committees are supposed to listen to the recommendations of the subcommittee, ask questions, and move forward. I'm just not at that point yet. So I'll cut my comments off right there.
Okay, Dave Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Nixon. Ally, I'm in 100% in favor of what you're doing. We need to do whatever we can to save our heritage here. I'm fortunate to live right in town and have 2 historic structures that I can see out windows, actually more than that, 3 churches. I'd hate to see something happen to them. And yes, I agree with everything you're saying. I also need to take a little time to digest all of this. We thank you immensely.
Dennis.
Yeah, Ally, thank you. It's obviously a great project. My questions are, the 2 criteria that you have regarding lot coverage and setbacks, do you have any information that if we had those 2 requirements now, how they would have been looked at as far as some of these historic properties that had been torn down? In other words, is it enough to have saved those? Do you know?
Yeah, so we did look at some examples of structures that have been torn down, historic structures that have been torn down, because we really wanted to make sure, we've been debating for a while how we can go about this building coverage incentive and what was right. So we did take a look at a few ones that were torn down and ones that even weren't, but that were historic structures that were conforming to the building coverage and setbacks and things like that, to figure out if these would work. So we did, take a look at that. It is a little hard to pinpoint, obviously, but we did take a look through the files to see if this incentive would be worthwhile. And we thought in some cases it would be.
Okay, well, that's all I really had. If it's something that will work, obviously it's great. So I'll leave it at that.
Megan.
I do need a little time, I think, to review and sort of think about what I suppose the best way to put it is worst case scenarios. But I love that we are moving forward with something like this, because even though I live in South Chatham, where I guess probably there is not as much historical, I firmly believe we need to save what is left and give people incentives to do that. So I will wholeheartedly support it. after I get a chance to sort of digest and make sure that I don't foresee any ill conclusions.
Bill?
Yeah, I would agree with what everyone said, that this is an important thing to pursue. And I think Paul's point was exactly the one that came up with me on the conditions was, is that reference to inappropriate use. I think that needs to kind of be nailed down a little bit more. But I think it's a great project. You did a super job putting this together, and I hope we can get this done.
Okay, so Allie, I hope that that input is what you're looking for. If I could generalize, I'd say that most everybody or all of us are in support of something along these lines, but there are certain things that need to be fine-tuned. So I think our next step would be for you and Frank and everybody else to think about this, and perhaps send out a note to the members of the ZBA, zeroing in on a couple of these matters that have been brought to your attention. And then we can move forward. I don't think this is going to happen soon, meaning it's not going to come before the town meeting in June, but it could possibly be with us if we had a special town meeting in the fall. If not, it would be next May. So I'll turn it back to you, Allie, for any last comments you might have.
Thank you. That was great. That's exactly what I was looking for. And I believe the Historical Commission is looking for as well, to get these comments. We will bring them back to the commission to discuss about how to potentially incorporate these into the proposed bylaw. And we will definitely come back to you with a revised draft. That's
perfect. Perfect. So we thank you very much. This is a great thing you're doing. And Frank, you too. So,
thank you very much.
Sarah?
I appreciate your kind and thoughtful comments. Really do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. So, Sarah, let me go on with reading the criteria for, not the criteria, but the procedure, and then we could go on to today's applications. So, for those that don't know, what happens is we ask that all citizens and not board members participating in the call via the phone, give us your name, please, and the last 4 digits of your phone number for identification purposes. The hearing notice will be read by Sarah B. Clark. Sarah is the PPO, Principal Permitting Officer for the town of Chatham. She's also our Executive Secretary. Following that, after the hearing notice is read, either the individual or a representative will present the application or the appeal to the board. Then we would ask for anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of it to do so. I would then read any and all letters that we had received in regards to the application. We would then ask for anybody who wishes to speak against the appeal or has a question to do so. And you do this as well as those who want to do this to speak in favor by indicating on the screen so that Sarah can see you and include you into the meeting, and we can listen to what you have to say. If there is folks who speak against or raise a question, then there could very well be some rebuttal. We would then have the board members ask questions, and following that, we would close the public hearing and go into deliberation, where we would hopefully end up voting. Votes in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts are done on a supermajority basis. In our case, there are 5 votes. That means you need 4 to be successful. Voters today would be Dave Veach, Paul Buck, Dave Thompson, and myself. Okay, so I think that's the end of that. So, Sarah, let's start with application 20-081.
Application number 20-081, Katama Point LLC, care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633, owner of property located at 68 Shell Drive, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessors Map 14K, Block 7, Lot W50. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the relocation of a portion of the existing dwelling and conversion into guest quarters, and the construction of a new dwelling and swimming pool. Also proposed is the installation of a new driveway as allowed by special permit under Section 4A3D. The existing dwelling is non-conforming and that it is located entirely within the Coastal Conservancy District, floodplain elevation 11. The proposed guest quarters and new dwelling will be non-conforming and that they will be located within the Coastal Conservancy District where a 50-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 3,697 square feet, 43.7%, and the proposed building coverage is 7,635 square feet, 90.3%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming and that it contains 8,455 square feet of contiguous buildable upland, where 20,000 square feet is required for a single dwelling. The lot contains 120,100 square feet in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D2B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw. This was continued from December 17th, 2020, January 28th, 2021, and March 11th, 2021.
Mr. Riley.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Bill Riley on behalf of Catama. We have not yet appeared before the Conservation Commission, although we will be there on the 28th. We'd like to be rescheduled for May 13th. That will give us an opportunity to have two meetings before the Conservation Commission, which should put us in hopefully good shape for your serious consideration of the application.
Okay, I would say to you, Mr. Riley, that I think that's a little too soon. I mean, this would be the fourth time that we've continued this. I really don't think that putting you on the end, we already have 5 appeals to deal with on May 13th. I think a fairer time and to make sure you get this done would be the last meeting in June. That would be June 24th. So I would suggest to you that you make that request of the board.
The very well, assuming that I can still count, I would accept your suggestion.
Okay, thank you. It just, I don't want to put it on again and have it happen, that we got to continue it for a 5th time. It's something. So I would say to the members of the board, does anybody have a different opinion or have a question of Mr. Riley as to the continuance question?
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to grant the request for continuance to June 24th, 2021.
Okay.
David Veach seconds.
Okay, then we need a vote on that. Dave Veach?
Veach votes yes.
Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson, yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, Mr. Riley. Okay, Sarah, application 21-022.
Application number 21-022, 517 Stony Hill Road, LLC, care of William F. Riley, Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 517 Stony Hill Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessors Map 15I, Block 13, Lot 21. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling, pool, and pool house located within the Inland Conservancy District, road and abutters setbacks. Also proposed is the installation of a fence and unpaved path, which requires the grant of a special permit under Section 4A3A of the Protective Bylaw. The existing dwelling is non-conforming, and that it is located within the Inland Conservancy District and is located 1.4 feet from the road where a 40-foot setback is required, and 6.4 feet from the easterly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The proposed dwelling will comply with road and abutter setback requirements. The proposed pool and pool house will be non-conforming, and that they will be located within the Inland Conservancy District where a 25-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 3,861 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 2,877 square feet, where 2,900 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 39,011 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D2B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
Okay, Mr. Riley, incidentally, I neglected to ask you on the previous application if you were willing to sign an extension so they could go out until June 24th.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I should have brought that up. Anyway, the floor is yours on Stony Hill Road.
Well, with regard to building coverage, I know Thad's on the line, so if I need help, he'll help me. But according to my information, the building coverage, current building coverage is 3,861, and the proposed building coverage is also 3,861. Thad, are you available there?
Yes, I am. That was an earlier copy, and we caught that. We went from 3,861 down to 2,877.
Well, thanks for keeping me current. Okay.
Well,
The
at least we're bringing it into conformity.
well, there you go. We love that. In any event, so I'm sure all the board members are familiar with the site and the you've got that tiny little cottage and the attached workshop / storage building that is has seen better days. If you walk around on the backside, the entire east side of the storage area is tar paper and batten boards to hold it on. And that building is located almost exclusively in the Inland Conservancy District. Our team today is, we have Thad Eldridge as our surveyor engineer, Mark Sangiolo is the architect, Jen Crawford is our plant specialist, and I know Kate Earls, who's a principal in the LLC, is also online. So the what I'd like to start, I'd like to have Mark go through the design process for the board members to explain how we got to where we are, and then we'll take it from there. So Mark, are you available?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great.
Okay, welcome, Mark.
Thank you for having us. Would you like me to use these drawings here?
However you wish to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
you can share your screen or you can use this screen.
So why don't we use this in case, and if anyone has any further questions or more detail, I'll share, but for simplicity, why don't we use what we have here? Let's start with the site plan, Thad's site plan. That's down a few. Okay, yeah, that's a good one there. That's good. So here we have this site on Stony Hill. It rises along Stony Hill from west to east, left to right along the road, about 7 feet. It has a high point on the left, on the west, kind of a knoll, and it drops down towards Cranberry Lane. We have the 50-foot buffer zone and a 100-foot buffer zone from the wetland. You can see those two thick lines. They're 50 feet apart, obviously, and they wave through the center of the site. So the challenge here was to design something within the buffer zones and try to correct some of the zoning violations while designing a nice building. Really two moves on the site. We wanted a house that had its living spaces adjacent to some green space and a pool and then the pool house. So it could either be, do we locate the house on the knoll looking down over the site, or do we locate it in the low area on the right looking up towards the pool? For many reasons, it was decided that the house would be better up on the knoll. It's outside the Inland Conservancy District. The lower, locating it more to Cranberry Lane, had some access problems, and we would like the idea of some eyeballs on the swimming pool, as well as the house entry driveway is now adjacent to the neighbors on the left, to the west of us. They also have their garage on that side, so it kind of made sense to keep the garages near each other and then the living spaces away from each other. So if we could go to the first floor. So on the left is a driveway. It raises up about 6 feet to a parking area. And the one thing that is always a big determinant in how you lay out the house, the challenge here was the program was a 4-bedroom house, 1 bedroom on the ground floor, then some public spaces, kitchen, family dining, a private space, etc. And one thing that always comes up is, oh, the garage should it be near the kitchen, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you can get by that restriction that doesn't have to be right next to the kitchen, then it helps open up some design options. So by placing the garage and the auto circulation on the left and being able to walk a little way to the kitchen, you now have a nice open kitchen, dining, living area that can look out on the property, have some light and air, etc. So the house laid out pretty easily once we got past this restriction. Let's go to the elevations. So what we wanted to do too was try to keep the house down to break up the massing, scale it a little bit. So as you, from on the left, you have like the garage portion is 1 story, and it rises up to the entry, and the living spaces on the right is 1.5. We'll go to the next drawing. The rear is just really a function of the program, just not trying to keep things simple, etc. Let's go to the next drawing. This is the pool house. The pool house is just envisioned as kind of an architectural folly at the end of the sight line. The site is organized, as I said before, the house, living spaces, a green space, the pool, and the pool house, kind of a formal linear thing where the pool house is the bookend. We'll go to the next one, please. These are really awful copies, but you get an idea, I guess, of the massing. What we're trying to do is scale the house down, as I said before, and offer maybe some material variation. We were thinking of the 2 gables part of the house being the cedar shingle, and the middle part of the house being a white clapboard. I think it'll create a nice contrast, be very appropriate with the materials in the rest of the town, etc. How about the next one? And that's really it for the design.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next up, Mr. Riley, how about the lady, the landscape lady?
Sure, Jen Crawford. Is Jen with us? I don't see Jen.
Okay.
All right, so let me explain what we did. We've been to the Conservation Commission, and their concern was that there be no building inside the 0 to 50. And so if Sarah would put her cursor up on the north side, all that planting between the old cranberry bog and the 50 it's all planted with native plants. That right now the property's overrun to the extent there are plants on it with invasives or lawn area, which, lawn area is bad for the Conservation Commission. So we've removed all that. And the path that's shown on there actually doesn't exist anymore. At the request of the Conservation Commission, we deleted that, so there's no paths or lawn, but for the small amount of lawn on the north side of the house in the 0 to 50. I want to take a minute to just touch on the Inland Conservancy District. Way back before we had a wetlands protection bylaw, the town went around and looked at existing water bodies and gave them numbers. This is number 791, I believe, 768, excuse me. And they established a water elevation. In this case, it's 43.8 feet above sea level. And they said, okay, the Inland Conservancy District is 2 feet above that elevation. And so Sarah, can you run your cursor over the Inland Conservancy District line? Thank you. So it's a little bit of an oddity. We don't run into it very often. And as you know, the building that's there is already in that area as well. So we think that, and the Conservation Commission agreed with us, I believe, that what we were proposing constituted an improvement over what was there. And so, that's why they've approved it. Thad, do you have anything you want to add here?
Not unless there are questions. Thank you.
Okay. So what they did, what we've done, as Mark mentioned, is the house is located between the 50-foot setback, which is what we're obligated to stay outside of for zoning purposes, and the 100-foot buffer zone. We're providing proper protection for the old cranberry bog in the back, which hasn't been farmed since the 1940s, but there it is. And so if we don't have any questions at this point, I'll go through the criteria.
Please do.
Adequacy of the size of the site in terms of the size of the proposed use. As you can see from the site plans, the lot has several different Conservancy District setbacks and zones. There's an old bog in the back that counts as a bordering vegetated wetland. And there's an Inland Conservancy District. Both zones have setbacks which are not honored by the existing buildings. The proposed structures meet the sideline and road setback in the zoning bylaw, and they meet the setback from the Conservancy District as well. As does the pool house and the pool. The Inland Conservancy District is an oddity, it means that somehow they're worried that there's going to be flooding there that would reach that elevation. That doesn't happen as far as I can tell. And it apparently was not a significant concern for the Conservation Commission since they approved the project. So, the main house meets the 25-foot setback from the Conservancy District. Because the improvements on the property meet the road and sideline setbacks, we believe that the board can find the size of the site is adequate for the proposed structures. compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with neighboring properties. This is a mixed neighborhood. So directly across the street, we have the former home of Joe Nickerson, who was the town historian for many, many years. That's a little bit, she's standing in the street looking across the street. That's to the right. If you look to the left, there's a very, very substantial home that was built by Joe's son, Steve, a local builder, who apparently is in the process of adding a new garage. And of course, as you go down Old Harbor Road from the intersection, which is right around the corner, there are some very significant homes. As you go down Scattery Road, there are homes of this size and larger. As you go up towards Main Street, there are smaller homes. I think that this home fits nicely in that patchwork of home designs. Extent of the proposed increase in non-conforming nature of the structure or use. So the existing building coverage is non-conforming, and the proposed building coverage is smaller than the existing building coverage, I just learned. However, there is an increase in the living area, which would be considered an intensification of the nonconformity. Although the proposed pool and pool house are located within the Inland Conservancy District, so is the existing structure. And all of the new structures located outside the 0 to 50, which is the Conservancy District setback and an area of greater concern for the Conservation Commission. According from our perspective, the only increase in the non-conforming nature is the increase in the living area, which constitutes an intensification of that particular non-conformity. Suitability of the site, including but not limited to impact on neighboring properties or on the natural environment, including slopes, vegetation, wetlands, groundwater, water bodies, and stormwater runoff. There are two areas of concern regarding stormwater runoff. One is the stormwater runoff that may have some impact on the neighboring wetland, and the stormwater runoff from the driveway entering onto Stony Hill Road. I think that in our dealings and the approval from the Conservation Commission shows that the applicants have taken proper steps to prevent stormwater from entering the wetland. The stormwater runoff from the driveway is dealt with by a drainage structure located at the foot of the driveway, which the applicants believe will take care of all stormwater runoff. Thad, is there anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, everything on the site is really an improvement. I was just texting with Jen Crawford and just wanted to reiterate the fact that we're going to be removing a significant amount of Japanese knotweed, which is certainly a blight on the environment. There's a full restoration plan that's being proposed across the north. As mentioned, the path is coming out from this plan, actually the lawn that extends, it's not going to extend as far towards the wetland. So these concessions, these revisions have made conservation rather approving of the project. Thank you.
All right, and the drainage structure?
So the drainage structure at the road, Stony Hill Road is a town road, and pursuant to their regulations, there'll be a trench drain placed at the bottom of the driveway so that stormwater runoff does not go onto the town road and is collected there.
All right, thank you, Thad.
Thank you.
So we believe that, as Thad said, working in conjunction with the Conservation Commission and Crawford Land Management, and then Thad's design for the road, that the site is suitable for the proposed construction. Impact of scale, siting, and mass on neighborhood visual character, including views, vistas, and streetscapes. The existing building is a little bit of a ramshackle working shop and storage building with a small cottage attached. It's located 1.4 feet from the road, where the street setback is 40. The applicant's located the proposed structure residence, so it's 52 feet setback from the road, with a traditional story and a half or story and 3/4 design. Because the building's located on an elevated portion of the lot, the proposed ridge will be substantially higher than the existing ridge. However, its siting and the architectural design, which breaks up the mass of the building, and its distance from the road, I believe it will constitute an improvement on the streetscape and on the neighborhood visual character. Given its location, there's no negative impact on views and vistas. Overall, the applicant believes that the proposed changes are not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. The compatibility of the proposed use with neighboring uses, unlike the existing building and the use of the lot, was used for storage and a former workshop, and for the last several years has been used as a parking area for a landscaping and tree removal company. We think that having a single-family residence in this area is very much compatible with neighboring uses and represents a real improvement to the neighborhood. Method of sewage disposal, source of water and drainage. The house is, the existing building is served by a septic tank that leads to 2 cesspools. The proposed structure will have a brand new Title V septic system. The impact on traffic flow and safety. Right now, as you know from visiting the site, there's a very large entrance for where the vehicles for the tree company used to park. Now we're going to have a single directed, thank you. Now we're going to have a single directed driveway located in an area where I believe there's good sight distance in both directions on Stony Hill Road. So we believe that there actually be an improvement on traffic flow and safety. Noise and litter, where the previous property was used for storage and woodworking and vehicle storage, there'll be less noise and litter associated with a single-family residence. That would be our presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. I would ask that if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this application, to please indicate on the screen now that you would like to be recognized so that Sarah can do that.
I am not seeing anyone that wishes to speak in favor of this application.
Okay, then I will read the correspondence. First of all, we have a memo from Judith Giorgio, a health agent here in town. She writes on 4/21, I have reviewed the plan to demo and rebuild the dwelling. Our records indicate that there is an existing 3-bedroom dwelling. The proposal appears to add a 4-bedroom dwelling and a pool house. That counts as a bedroom for a total of 5. This is not allowed by the Board of Health nitrogen loading regulation. Detailed floor plans of the existing dwelling are needed for review of the property. Approval by the Board of Health will be required. This property has a failed septic system, and the owners were ordered to upgrade to a new Title V system in a letter dated January 27th, 2021. Then we have a note. This is from Nicole Smith. And she is writing to say that 517 Stony Hill Road, order of conditions was approved. Incidentally, Nicole Smith, I should tell everybody, is the new health agent. I'm sorry, conservation agent. Conservation agent. She writes, 517 Stony Hill Road, order of conditions was approved at the April 7th, 2021 work session and will be issued within the next 21 days. If there are any changes made to the plan due to zoning, they'll need to be discussed with the Conservation Department. And then we have a note. This is from Michelle Clark. She writes on April 5th, the Historical Commission held a public hearing on February 16th, 2021, to consider a request to demolish the structure at 517 Stony Hill. After reviewing the materials presented, the Commission determined that the existing structure is not historically significant and therefore did not impose a demolition delay. That is the extent of the correspondence. If there's anyone in the audience now that would like to speak against this or has a specific question, please indicate on the screen now so that Sarah can recognize you.
Quite done.
I don't see anyone indicating that they wish to speak in opposition or have a specific question.
Okay, then we'll have questions from the board. We'll start with Paul.
This is Paul Semple. I have two questions. One is the living area. I'm trying to get a feel for the size of this structure. The living area amounts to how many square feet, Bill?
Paul, Mark Sangiolo can give you the living area of the various floors. Mark?
Hi. So the first floor gross square feet measured to outside of wall is 1,989, not including the garage. The second floor is 2,153. The garage is 323. It's a single car garage with room for trash and lawnmower, etc. And the pool house is 296.
Okay, as I look at the architectural plans, I'm looking at diagram or plan A1. Says in the dining living area, 2290 square feet.
That's a gross square footage with the garage included, just the whole floor plate.
Okay, and the A2 indicates 1577 square feet.
Yes, plus 545 in the bonus room over the garage or the west.
Okay. And then
those numbers don't quite add up because really those, it's much easier for architects to dimension and do areas to the frame, outside frame, but I increased them a little just in case. I know that some towns look at outside of corner boards. So the ones that I listed in the beginning have a little bit more because of that.
All right.
Very slightly.
Your A3 is an additional 1332.
That's correct. And that's measured to the inside face of the finished space.
So your overall living area, what does that total up to approximately?
4,000 square feet.
4,142.
Okay. And how does that compare with the neighboring house? Sometimes Bill gives us the figures on living area, but I don't see them here.
Yeah, I ran out of time today, Paul.
Uh-huh.
But if you, it depends what you consider the neighborhood. As I indicated, the house across the street, Joe Nick's old house, is significantly smaller. The Steve Nick built a brand new house on the corner of Stony Hill and Old Harbor that is substantially larger than this building. And if you go down Old Harbor Road, a couple of lots, there's a brand new monster, double gambrel roof, facing the street, didn't need zoning board of appeals approval. As you go down Scattery, that's to say to the east from the property, you've got a couple of homes that would be substantial but smaller than this property, and then a couple of new homes that were built, one by Eastwood companies that are, again, significantly larger than this structure. If you go up the road towards Route 28, it's an old neighborhood, and the houses tend to be smaller. There have been some that are under construction now that will be larger, but I think that if you don't think about the living area, but the way the building presents itself to the street, we don't have a standard really for either, but I think, the compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with neighboring properties deals with the visual impact of the structure to the street. And although, thanks to Mark's abilities, they have been able to create a significant amount of living space inside the structure. I don't think the structure itself is incompatible with the neighboring properties where you have such a mix in this neighborhood.
Okay. As I look at the architectural drawing A7, which is perspective 1 and perspective 2, are the gradations there stone walls that are going to be on the property, or?
No, they're just, may I share my screen? Because I find these images don't do justice to the design. Would that be possible, or are we running late?
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I've stopped sharing, so the architect may share his screen.
Okay, very good.
How do I do it? I'm sorry.
Okay, so you'll see next to the leave button, there's a little up arrow. At the top of your screen, it should be.
Or in the bottom of your screen, move your cursor over the screen. The participant list, the hand waving, the microphone, okay. So the little up arrow.
Or you can hit Control-Shift-E.
I have like a down arrow, so just close.
There you go, but we're seeing your email.
Oh, okay. Sorry. There you go. How's that?
Now we're just seeing you and Bill. So you want to have whichever screen you're proposing to show the perspectives. You're going to want to have that ready so you can select it, and you're going to do it through, you'll pick the desktop section.
Control-Shift-E.
Yes.
Anyway, I don't want to waste everyone's time. We'll go back to the other drawing.
Okay, I'll pull that right.
Sorry.
Okay, so if you can just stop sharing, I will go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the steps you're seeing are just, they're actually the contours, not evened out. They're not retaining walls.
Okay, so that's just showing the different elevations as you drop down away from the house.
That's correct.
And how is that going to be landscaped?
Well, if you look on the post conditions plan, Sarah, yeah, there you go. You can see Paul, you can see if you move your cursor over the contour lines between the house and the street, Sarah. between the house and the street. There you go. See, Paul, it goes from 43 up to 50 in 2-foot increments. So it's just, it's the way, and they're evenly spaced contour lines, which means it'll be an even, smooth contour going up from the road to the house.
They're 1-foot increments.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thanks, Thad.
And how will that be, what will you be looking at, looking from the road up to the house?
Well, we're gonna have a hedge at the street line. You'll be looking up, the entrance is recessed by about 10 feet between the two wings. So you'll be looking up, at that recessed entryway, and then the two gable ends, one of the garage / bedroom and one of the main living spaces. So that you see, there's a spot elevation in the center of the recessed, actually right there, 51. And if you come down, straight down to the street, you see 41.9, come down to the street, there you go, right there. So if you're standing in the street, the front door is going to be 10 feet above you. But it'll be behind, it's over 52 feet away. In fact, the front door is about 60 feet away. So that's why we believe, even though we're on top of the knoll, that because we're 52 feet back from the street, and there'll be, some significant plantings between, particularly right at the street level, there's going to be a significant hedge there. That the view will be not substantially more detrimental, just be a higher building. If you look over, we don't have it, but the building to the left is also up on a knoll with an entrance at approximately the same elevation. So it would be that's a full cape that was approved by the zoning board about 1.5 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Those are the only questions I had.
Okay. Questions from Buck?
So I'm looking at along the same lines as Paul, but I've got the same. I think Thad can help me here. The ridge elevation on Thad's print is 77.4, correct?
Yes.
And the street is, can we call it 42 there? 43, 42 and a half?
Yeah.
So it looks like from the street, even though the representative has said it's 50 feet back.
Well, I didn't say that. Thad said that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's on the plan, 52.4 feet.
All right, and the normal setback is 40 in that area?
That's correct.
Yes.
So it's 10 foot, it's pushed back 10 feet more, but you've got a 35 foot, the ridge is 35 feet above the street. And if we go to A1 of the architects, for ignoring the porch, the frontal face from the garage on the left, or the bumpers of the car, over to the patio or covered porch, that looks like it's 70 feet. Is that an agreement there with either Mark or Thad?
I'm sorry, 70 feet of horizontal distance?
Correct.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 23 plus 25 plus 22.
Okay, and I guess I just wanted to make sure of that, because I think that it's going along or paralleling some of the questions that Paul asked. There's some concerns about the size. And I wanted to make sure I had the math right. Thank you. That's it.
This was all lawn, and there were going to be pockets of shrubs and trees.
Okay, questions from Dave Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions for these gentlemen. I will save my comments for a little bit later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dennis.
Yeah, this is Dennis Sullivan. I just had a couple of questions, Bill. I had some reservations about the mass of the house, but the pool looks like it's essentially at street height level, but obviously it's closer to the street than the house. And I was wondering, how are you going to, mass the pool from the street? Is it a hedge there? Is there a wall there?
There's going to be a hedge that goes along the front of the building, the front of the property.
In front of the pool?
Yeah.
And if I may, if Sarah could bring up the site plan again, the third sheet of it. So you'll see that there are different shades here. The lighter being lawn area, and then the moderate shade being vegetation landscaping. And so the proposal is to landscape between the house and the road, between the pool and the road. Over on the east, there would be some lawn, around the building itself lawn. Between the house and the road, there is a septic system going in, and we'd prefer to put lawn over the septic system, just so you don't get the root intrusion. So there is a fair amount of possibility for some landscaping out here to help buffer everything.
Well, didn't conservation require you to come up with some kind of a landscaping plan?
Their jurisdiction extends to the 100-foot line, not to the road.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Dennis. The when we deal with conservation, they're principally dealing with the area within the 50-foot marker to the wetland. I mean, their jurisdiction technically goes out 100 feet, but they don't usually opine or require any significant planting. So the plantings inside the 0 to 50 are all native, and they're a combination of woody shrubs and other indigenous plants. The planting in front of the house, and I promise if I'm ever in the pool, I'll make sure I wear a uni body so nobody can see my body. But there'll be a natural screening because the applicant wants privacy at the pool as well.
I just want to add to this is Mark Sanjol that I believe there's close to 10,000 square feet of planting mitigation on the site too.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Megan, any questions?
I don't have any questions that weren't already asked.
Okay, Bill.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. One is relative to the septic system. Have the comment that came back to the Board of Health seemed to indicate that you have to meet a 5-bedroom threshold. Has this system been designed in any more detail, given that it appears to be on a bit of fill as well? Do you agree with what the Board of Health said, and have you done any, has the perk testing been done, or where does that stand?
Well, as regard to the Board of Health comment regarding the number of bedrooms, I spoke with Judy Giorgio, who was the Board of Health agent, and I said, how do we deal with this? And she said, if the pool house is not heated, then it's not a bedroom. And so, I discussed this with the applicant, and so it's been decided that the pool house will not be heated. It'll be drained in the, because that's the Board of Health's concern is it's usable year round. So it's not heated, it'll be drained in the wintertime, about the same time the pool is covered. And, so it can't be used during the wintertime, so it's not a bedroom. And with regard to the septic system, that's a Thad question.
So there has been fill on this site in the past, and the proposal is to remove that fill, getting down to the native soils, and then putting the septic system in. We're finalizing that right now to go into the Board of Health, and it's the, I don't know, the best spot on the property for it.
So you're going to remove some old soils in the area where the septic system is going?
Yes.
To get to native soil?
Yes.
But it appears like you're filling there. The grades seem to indicate to me that there's some fill and certainly some, as Paul brought up and others, there's some significant grading there in the front of the site.
There is. So this site had a perched groundwater table, and we have to design the system to be 5 feet above that.
And what elevation was the groundwater?
One moment, I will pull that open.
And if you look at the existing conditions plan, I mean, it shows the 45 contour around where the front of the house would be, right there. So I don't think there's a significant amount of fill going in there. There's a little bit of a ditch there by the road, so there'll be some fill going in there, but the location of the septic system, as Thad said, is really removing old material that had been placed there previously, and getting down to clean natural soils.
So, and if I may, the perched water table was found at elevation 42.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's elevation 38 was where we came across the good material.
Elevation 38. Okay. Okay. Also, Sarah, can you put the site plan back up? Thanks. And slide it up so we can see the road. All right. Great. You talked a little bit of drainage. What exactly is that structure to be designed that's supposed to catch stormwater driveway?
So, and I think I misspoke earlier. I said a trench drain, and that's one option that could go in, but a small catch basin off the side of the driveway, and everything could be pitched to that, and then a 6x6 pit. There'd be excavation here as well to make sure we're down to clean material, and just like every other structure.
Can you just explain what you're showing there with it? It looks like is that an inlet then, or just like a sump pit of some kind? Like what exactly is your thoughts for that? Because that is going to catch a lot of water.
I mean, all in all, it's a fairly small area. We have a driveway that's 50 feet and it's 14 feet wide. The idea was to put in a catch basin to catch that water, and then going over a 6x6 pit. I mean, that's what they use for road construction. It's a fairly substantial drainage structure.
Well, and Thad, perhaps you have to explain how the low point in the driveway is the location of the catch basin and that there's a negative grade up to the street from there, so that no water will go out on the street. In fact, there's a greater likelihood of street stormwater running into our catch basin than the other way around.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So are you proposing a pipe under the driveway then from your catch basin?
The catch basin would be on the left side of the driveway, so we
Yeah.
wouldn't need the pipe under the driveway. The right side of that driveway at the low point would be higher than the left side. All the water would come down the hill and go to the left into the catch basin. And then there'd be a bit of a sump in there to catch some of the materials that would accumulate, and then it would go over to a leach pit.
Is this something that you're going to put in post-construction or to beginning construction?
So if it's put in the middle of construction, it needs to be protected.
Right.
A siltation barrier would have to be put over the basin itself. If the silts get into the leach pit, then it's useless and it has to be replaced.
Because I really, I mean, you're catching more water than from the driveway. A lot of the drainage appears to be going in that direction. That's why it just seems like during construction, when you start grading and stripping the site, there's going to be some runoff there. So I assume that'll be caught by when the plan is reviewed. But are you going to plan on putting like some silt fence along the road or something?
There'd be silt fence. They'd likely just dig in a low area right there to catch all the runoff during construction, and then as they're ready to button up that area, then they'd add the drainage and then construct the driveway.
Okay.
And the
That's all I had, Dave.
on the park, just so you know, the parking area is going to be pervious, so that assuming that works the way it's supposed to, that will not be contributing to the runoff down the driveway. It'll just be the driveway surface alone.
So the parking area is going to be stone or something?
Well, it's going to be a pervious material. I don't know that's been decided exactly what, but that was part of our presentation to the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
I mean, this pervious,
That's all I had, Dave.
pervious asphalt is,
Right.
Okay. Questions from Dave Veach.
Bill, the path has gone away, but now there was something about a fence requiring a special permit. Is that still part of this, or is that gone away as well?
No, that's Sarah's showing the fence.
So this is the fence around the pool?
Right.
Okay, and that's requires special permit because it's within 50 feet of the Conservancy district.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Oh, motion, please.
Well, if I could, Mr. Chairman, if I could just respond a little bit to the concerns raised by Paul and Buck.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so in the first place, Buck mentioned that, what's the width of the building as it faces the street? Well, it's 70 feet. In the context of North Chatham, even in this neighborhood, that's not a particularly large house. The houses I referenced earlier, right around the corner, right across the street, really, on Old Harbor Road, are well over 100 feet from side to side. So I think, I think you have to keep it in the context. Also, the front of the building, as Mark pointed out, is broken up so that the face of the structure, the entry hall, is 10 feet further back from the street than the two side pieces, thereby breaking up the mass. And so if we go back to the site plan, Sarah, for just a minute. All right, so the Buck pointed out that the ridge elevation is 77.4 feet. And so that would be 35 feet above the 42-foot elevation of the street. Now, under our zoning bylaw, 30 feet is the maximum height of a building measured from the ridge to the average grade plane. So clearly we meet that. And even though the garage slab, we use the garage slab as a good thing, is at elevation 48. So that would indicate that that area is 6 feet above the road. So now, but the house isn't 36 feet high, or it's only 35 feet above the road. So I think you have to keep in mind that we're dealing with an odd shaped property, and and so if the height was a concern, we could come back and cut a couple of feet off the top of the hill. But I don't know what that does for anybody, having in mind that the goal of the Zoning Board of Appeals is, is this building substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure? And so, considering what I would suggest, even though they've been able to stick a lot of living space in the building, it's really a pretty modest building compared to Steve Nickerson's building around the corner, or the new building that just got built down there. So I appreciate the fascination with living area. That's never been part of the zoning bylaw. I understand, that the board is concerned about the visual impact of changes in the neighborhood. But, considering what's on the site today, loaded with invasives, the over 10,000 square feet of invasive removal and mitigation plantings we're doing, getting the building, right now the building's 1.4 feet from the street, and now it's going to be 52 feet from the street. I really think that this is a structure that is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, and the mass is appropriate, and because it's broken up by Mark's design. So that'd be our final presentation.
Okay, Paul, a motion to go into deliberations, please.
Yep, this is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need to vote on that. Dave Veach.
Veach votes yes.
Paul.
Semple votes yes.
Buck.
Votes yes.
Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations. Let's start with Buck.
Well, I know that the lot is ripe for development. Certainly what's there has a lot of issues, and the applicant is trying to come up with a solution that is better for the neighborhood and something that meets all of our criteria. I wish I could support it. I would like to, but I would also think maybe they could come back with something a little smaller. And it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood as much as I think it's mass and scale. It's it just seems to be
too much.
Big. Those are my comments.
Okay, Dave Thompson.
Thank you, David. I'm in favor of this, very much so. It's a great improvement over what's there right now. It's an improvement to the neighborhood. It fits right in terms of height. You're going to go down, heading west. You're going to go by that. Then you come to the house that Ricky Smith put up. That's going to be higher. Bill has already said they're keeping with the height of 30 feet, and then you add on the height from the road up to the foundation. Good Christmas, this is not bad at all. You go around the corner to Franny Nicholson's old house, which was torn down. They put a castle up there. This is nothing compared to what's going on down the street. All in favor of it? I think it's great. I wish them luck.
Dennis,
Yeah, if I were voting, I certainly would vote in favor of it. I think it's a nice project. I think it fits in the neighborhood. I'll just leave it at that.
Megan,
I have to agree with Buck on this one. I don't necessarily think that it fits in the neighborhood, but I'm not voting, so you're in luck.
Bill,
Yeah, I think, I do think that it's an improvement to the neighborhood. My first concern looking at the site was, that we didn't have the historic feedback yet. And given that went away, I think that, I think it's a good project. I do think they have some issues to address though, related to the site and related to the construction period, relative to drainage and the septic system as well, which I'm sure will be addressed when they go through their final review. But I think if I was voting, I'd probably be in agreement with their application.
Dave Veach.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I agree with Dave Thompson on this. I think it's certainly not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I think the house is going to fit the neighborhood just fine, and it's not. It's well designed. It meets, in my judgment, it meets all of our criteria, and I will support it.
Paul.
Well, this is Paul Semple. As you could tell from my questions, I had some concern about the size of this structure and the amount of area that's involved, and the perspective from the road and how it's going to look. I am beginning to think more and more that we need more presentation in our hearings concerning landscaping and perspectives that show what things look like from the either neighbors or the road. Unfortunately, I feel a little bit burned by the Bridge Street properties that I've been past lately, and I realize that's been through the Environmental Conservation Commission and that they have approved all that's involved there, but I think it would have informed our decision a little bit better if we had known what that was going to look like before we made the decision as to how we were going to proceed with it. Not that we wouldn't come to the same conclusion, but certainly it is not anywhere near as obstructed by trees and vegetation and so forth as what we were considering it at that time. I think in looking at this property, I guess that because some of the buildings further along the road on Stony Hill are in fact larger, that maybe this can be blended in sufficiently so that it doesn't just stand out as an elevated property looking down on everyone else below it. But that was the concern I had. It benefits from the fact that we're starting with a property which is not very good shape. And in fact, almost anything you do there is not going to be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood. So I guess I would reluctantly end up voting in favor of it.
Okay, and from my perspective, I agree with what Paul was just saying. It is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. It's a huge improvement, Yeah, is it the massing a little too much? Yes, and all that, but overall, it's a project that I can support and intend to. Paul, do you feel that we need to have any sort of concern about conditions?
I frankly don't see a need for it here. We should have our usual conditions that anything that's going to be done on the site would be contained on the site in terms of construction equipment and so forth. But it's a fairly isolated area, and I don't know that we need any of the other further restrictions.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with what Paul just said? Okay. Then, Paul, a motion, please.
Yes, this is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the application as submitted with the construction, with the condition that all construction activity and vehicles be contained on site.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need to vote on that. Dave Veach?
Veach votes yes.
Paul?
Sample votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson votes yes.
And I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
Okay. Sarah, I think we're on to 21-023.
Application number 21-023, Eric and Maria M. Paone, owners of property located at 7 Sabins Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessors Map 15H, Block 72, Lot R1. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of a portion of the dwelling and the construction of an addition. The proposed addition will comply with road and abutter setback requirements. The existing building coverage is 1,650 square feet, 16.4%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,752 square feet, 17.4%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 10,065 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
Okay, so do we have Eric or Maria? Who's going to present this?
We have Eric here. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Eric. I should tell everybody the other job that Eric and Maria have beside building homes is Chatham Light Liquors. Eric, you got the floor.
Yes, we do. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. What we are proposing and looking for is to replace the old sunroom on the back of our house, and we are trying to remove the existing wall between the sunroom and the kitchen and make it part of the new kitchen that we're trying to add. So we want to take that section down and bump it out no further. Obviously, we're going to use the old foundation there and try to fill in the spot that had an old dilapidated deck that was about 7 feet off to the right side of it. And that's what we're looking to do, hopefully.
Okay, you have the criteria. Could you please go through it for us?
And that is, okay, so on the back side, yes, the existing part of it right now is the sunroom. And what we're looking to do is basically, it's going to be a 14 feet by 19 feet. And it will become a whole new kitchen. And then it will have 2 separate doors on either side of the room and surrounded by 3 remodeled new windows on the back and 2 in the kitchen. And it should be fairly simple, and a new roof configuration is what we're trying to do.
Okay, the criteria I'm talking about are the ones, the 12 items that we use. I believe Sarah gave you the list. Starts out with adequacy of the size of the site and compatibility and so on and so forth.
I'm trying to see here. I unfortunately do not have that with me in front of me here. I did not receive that, I don't believe.
Well, you probably did, but that's okay.
Oh.
Sarah, can you put that on the screen so that Eric can see it?
and I'm unable to see it because I am on the phone because we were not able to get through it on the computer.
Okay. All right, then I will just quickly redo the ones that you need to respond to us, okay? So
Okay.
the first one is tell us the adequacy of the size of the site. Now, I don't think we need to have that. I mean, it's a one-family home and all that. Compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with the neighboring properties. Tell us, the rest of the neighborhood.
So around me, so we're basically right here on Sabins Lane. It's a small quarter acre. And pretty much all the other homes in the area are a little bigger than ours. Ours is a smaller area, and it is just a two-story simple home is what it is.
Okay. I don't think we have to worry about the extent of the proposed increase in nonconforming nature. Tell us about the suitability of the site, including but not limited to the impact on neighboring properties, on the natural environment, including slopes, vegetation, wetlands, groundwater, water bodies, and storm water runoff. If you listen to the previous application, there was a lot of discussion about that.
Yes. According to what I see here and everything, is really nothing changing. The surrounding landscapes, things like that, are all staying the same. The only thing that is changing is the configuration of the roof line, just coming off the back side of the house, but nothing should change as far as that goes.
Okay. How about the impact of scale, siting, and mass on neighborhood visual character, including views, vistas, and streetscapes? In other words, how is the project in its finished state going to impact anybody's view or,
In this particular case, I would think that it's going to be much better because the way that it is right now, the old sunroom is completely dilapidated and has not been able to be used for almost 4 years now. So
Okay.
hopefully it should be improving the area quite a bit.
Okay. And I don't think the other criteria is anything you need to speak about. Okay. Okay. So thank you very much. I will ask the audience if there's anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application, please indicate on the screen now so that Sarah can recognize you.
I am not seeing anyone that wishes to speak in favor of this application.
Okay, then I'll read the correspondence we have. The first is from Judith Giorgio, the health agent for the town. She writes, on 4/20, I've reviewed the plan to renovate. The proposed plan does not increase septic flow. The location of the addition does not encroach on the existing septic system. Plan is acceptable. Then we have a note. This is from James, and Eric, you got to help me. Valchos, how you pronounce that name?
Yes, Valchos, you are correct.
Okay, and he and Sarah Murphy write on April 19th. As full-time Chatham residents, we are emailing our support for the special permit applied for by our neighbors. Okay. Then I would ask in the audience, is there anyone who wishes to speak against this or has a specific question? If so, please indicate on the screen so that Sarah can recognize you.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a specific question.
Okay, questions from the board. We'll start with Dave Thompson.
Thank you, sir. I have no questions of Eric.
All right, Dennis.
Dennis Sullivan, I have no questions.
Megan.
Megan Story has no questions.
Bill.
Bill Grau, no questions.
Dave Each.
Dave Each has no questions.
Paul.
Paul Semple has no questions.
Buck.
Buck Upson, no questions.
And I don't have any either. Okay, a motion, please, Paul.
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Each seconds.
All right, we need to vote on that. Dave Each.
Each votes yes.
Paul.
Semple votes yes.
Buck.
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson, yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations. Let's start with Dennis.
Dennis, I'm not voting, but if I were, I certainly would vote in favor of it. It meets all our criteria. It's a simple project and it should be approved.
Megan.
I completely agree.
Bill.
I agree as well.
Dave Veach.
Yes, it's certainly not substantially more detrimental, and it's actually an improvement and meets all our criteria.
Paul.
Yes, this is clearly an improvement, and I will vote in favor.
Buck.
And I'll second that. It meets our criteria, and it's certainly not more detrimental.
Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson agrees with Buck, and I'm definitely in favor of it.
Okay, conditions. Paul, are any necessary?
I think given the limited amount of work that's going to be done, I'm not sure any are needed.
Okay. Anybody disagree with that? Okay, then, Paul, a motion, please. Maybe we need to keep construction vehicles on the site because of being on 28. I don't think we want them, off to the side.
Well, and Sabins Lane is a fairly narrow lane, so I will move to approve the application as submitted with the condition that all construction activity and vehicles be contained on site.
Okay, then we need
Veach
a vote. All right. Dave Veach, voting?
Veach votes yes.
Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Upson votes yes.
All right, Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson votes yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, Eric and Maria. Congratulations. That's a unanimous vote.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
All right. Sarah, application 21-024.
Application number 21-024, Bridget B. Buff and Robert W. Buff, care of William G. Litchfield, Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owners of property located at 232 Woodland Way, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 11K, Block 23, Lot HC 93. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of an addition. The existing dwelling is non-conforming in that it will be located 24.4 feet from the northerly abutter. The proposed addition will be non-conforming in that it is located 24.3 feet from the northerly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 2,384 square feet, 7.9%, and the proposed building coverage is 2,506 square feet, 8.3%, where 10% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 84.44 feet of frontage where 150 feet is required and contains 30,239 square feet where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protected Bylaw.
Mr. Litchfield, we're sorry to keep you up this late, but the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I guess I should say good evening rather than good afternoon. I appreciate those kind welcoming words. Given the length of the hearing and the small nature of the relief that we are requesting, I will try to be very brief. As you observed from your site visit, Bob and Bridget Buff are putting on an addition on the rear of the house, which is a matter of being constructed as of right, and they want to have a small extension as shown there on the front of the garage. Really, the bulk of it is for architectural purposes. They do want to move their laundry into the garage from out of the kitchen, but they also want to have what's essentially an overhang on the front of the garage. They propose, as shown there on the left-hand side of what Sarah's put up in front of you, right there, basically an architectural feature which will overhang the front of the garage. Some of the garage will be extended as well. But we're seeking 122 square foot addition to the garage, and we need your approval because the garage, the house was built mid-60s, 1966, when zoning out there was R20, and we are a little bit too close to the lot line now, and we want to get a little bit closer, 1/10 of a foot, which in English is about an inch. So I'll go into the criteria. There's a half-acre site, which is adequate, certainly for the existing home, notwithstanding the proximity to the sideline. And if you approve the special permit, you can do so based on the finding that the site is adequate for the 122 square foot addition to the garage, which we're seeking. As to compatibility of size, all of the lots in the neighborhood were created in the 1950s under old R20 zoning, and all of them on the landward side, our side, are now non-conforming. The house is comparable to the others in the neighborhood. I handed out, and Sarah, I'm sure, was kind enough to pass it along to you, a comparison chart. We're currently at 7.9% of coverage. We'll go to 8.3%, but the house itself isn't going to be changed significantly. It will remain compatible. And the relief sought is, as you know from having been out there, a long way from the street. It's nearly 60 feet back from the street. As to the extent of increase in nonconformity, it's again 1/10 of a foot. We're going from 24.3 feet where existing, 24.4 existing to 24.3, and that's just the garage isn't squarely sited on the lot. There are no environmental issues, so there's no question about suitability of site. Scale, siting, mass, and vistas aren't really at issue. The gable and shed roof over the garage is in keeping with the existing style. There's no impact on views and vistas, and again, we're set back far from the street. Compatibility of use, there's no change. We're simply extending the garage. Chair will read a letter from the health agent indicating that she has no concerns. And as you know, again, from having been out there, there's a significant existing natural vegetative screen between the house and the one uphill up at 244, which is the impacted abutter. That house is about 15 feet higher in elevation, so they won't really see it. They'll see out over the new garage. I did not get letters because I didn't think, frankly, you'd want to bother to read them, but the owners of the adjacent properties at 237 Woodland Way, 263 Woodland Way, and 265 Woodland Way across the street have all indicated that I can represent to you that they are in support of this proposal. So the question before you is whether this proposed small addition to the garage set way back from the street is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the current non-conforming structure. The addition, even with the space at the rear, will comply as to coverage. It's a minimal change, and I think you can find that it is not substantially more detrimental. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this? If so, please indicate on the screen so that Sarah can recognize you.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor of the application.
Okay, I'll read the correspondence. This one consists of a memo from Judith Giorgio. She writes on 420, I've reviewed the plan to renovate. Proposed planned addition does not increase septic flow. The location of the addition does not encroach on the existing septic system. The plan is acceptable as proposed. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak either against or has a specific question on this application? If so, please indicate on the screen now so that Sarah can recognize you.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a specific question.
Okay, then we have questions on the board. Megan.
Sorry about that, muted. I have no questions on this. I think it's a good project.
Okay, Bill.
No questions at all.
All right, Dave Veach.
Dave Veach has no questions.
Paul.
Paul has no questions.
Buck.
Buck has no questions.
Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson has no questions, sir.
Dennis.
Dennis Sullivan, no questions.
All right, now I have no questions. Paul, a motion?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
All right, we need to vote. Dave Veach.
Veach votes yes.
Paul.
Sample votes yes.
Buck.
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson votes yes.
And I vote yes, too. All right, deliberations. Bill.
I would certainly support this. This is an improvement and doesn't affect the neighborhood whatsoever.
Okay. Dave Veach.
Yes, this is minor. It's certainly not substantially more detrimental in the neighborhood. It meets all our other criteria, so I'll support it.
Paul?
Yes, I agree. I think it'll make that garage actually look a little more attractive.
Buck?
I'll support it.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson will support it.
Dennis?
Dennis Sullivan, if I were voting, I certainly would support it.
Okay, and Megan?
Likewise.
All right, and me too. So I can't believe we need to condition this since it's a project that's well underway. All right, so Paul, a motion, please.
I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
Dave Veach seconds.
All right, we need to vote on that. Dave Veach?
Veach votes yes.
Paul?
Chatham votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson votes yes.
And I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote, Mr. Litchfield. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so Sarah, application 21-026.
Application number 21-026, Bruce and Marla Venkman, care of Peter Farber, P.O. Box 768, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owner of property located at 198 Training Field Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 9I, Block 22, Lot SW36. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of additions. The proposed additions will comply with all bulk and dimensional requirements of the bylaw, but are considered a substantial alteration, and under the second except clause of Section 6 of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, such substantial alteration requires the grant of a special permit. The existing building coverage is 1,407 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 2,662 square feet, where 2,850 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 20,500 square feet in the R60 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
Mr. Farber, are you there? Welcome. We haven't heard from you in a while. Welcome
I
back
know.
to
I'm.
the ZBA.
All right. Well, this is Peter Farber. Can you hear me, David?
Yes, I can.
All right. So now I don't see anybody. Is that typical?
No, it is not typical. We've had a lot of, I can't see anybody either. We've had
Okay.
some communication difficulties today, but don't let that stop you. And, you know, Sarah has your information and can be put on the screen for those who can view it.
All right. So I represent the applicants, Bruce and Marla Veekman. Mr. Veekman, just a little bit of an introduction, is a retired officer from the U.S. Coast Guard. Miss Veekman is grew up in Chatham. She's a 1973 graduate of Chatham High School. And many of you may have known her father was Dick Kelsey, who was the famous pilot and the photographer of air views of Cape Cod.
Oh, yes.
So
you're very good. Yes.
this is his daughter coming home, so to speak.
Okay.
And also of interest, possibly, is the parcel in question was owned by her former classmate, Benjamin Goodspeed. Mr. Goodspeed died about a year ago, and Bruce and Marla Beekman purchased the property in July 2020. The lot in question is one of 37 in the Stillwaters subdivision, which was developed beginning in 1952. The lot receives its access exclusively from Training Field Road. So in other words, no one, the Beekmans or none of their guests or visitors would have to travel through any of the subdivision roads to access the lot. The property contains 20,500 square feet, which is quite typical for this subdivision. I counted of the 37 lots, 10 lots contain less than 20,000. 4 lots contain in excess of 30,000, and 23 are between 20 and 30,000. And this particular lot fits into that category. All of the lots became non-conforming in 1987 when the town meeting changed the zoning district in this area to 60,000 square foot. Prior to that, it was 20,000 square foot minimum lot size. So each of the lots in this subdivision became non-conforming at that time. The existing house is a single-story, very typical Cape Cod ranch. It was built in 1971 by Nickerson Homes at their production facility in Orleans. The house has a simple layout. There are 2 small bedrooms, a living room, a small kitchen, and one bathroom, a breezeway, and an attached garage. The entire footprint is 1,407 square feet, 1,407. The Beekmans commenced renovations of the existing home this past winter. All they needed was a building permit for that because all the renovations are within the interior of the dwelling. What brings the applicants before the ZBA is the second phase of the project, which of course is on hold until, at least until the decision of the ZBA this afternoon. And this has 2 aspects. And with the site plan that's presently on my screen, over on your left, you'll see the existing 1-car garage. And it's set about 29 feet from the northerly property line. The garage is going to be demolished, and in its place, there will be, on the same, pretty much the same footprint, will be a master bedroom and bath suite. I say pretty much the same footprint because there's a little bit of a bump out in the existing garage, which will be eliminated entirely. So actually, as to the northerly sideline, the setback distance will increase to roughly 33 feet. The second aspect of the project involves the wing, or the L, that projects off the rear of the house garage that's existing. And this is will house, as I mentioned, a 2-car garage, a breezeway, not a breezeway, but a farmer's porch, a mudroom, and an enlarged kitchen and dining area. And there will be a small ground level deck that's off the back of the property as well. And this, of course, requires the special permit, not because there's going to be any increased nonconformity, and that's the uniqueness of this application. The house itself, the existing house, is absolutely conforming with all setbacks and lot coverage requirements. And if the changes that are being sought are allowed by the ZBA, all of the changes will be completely conforming to the existing bylaw, including lot coverage requirements. However, because this involves a substantial alteration, the applicants must obtain a finding from the ZBA that the proposed changes will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. And with those thoughts in mind, I will address the criteria that the board is charged with considering.
Thank you. Yes, very good.
All right. And so basically what they are I lump them together in 3 categories. The first has to do with the site itself, its adequacy and the suitability of the site for a larger home that presently exists. Here, as I mentioned at the beginning, the lot itself is very typical of the subdivision, falling squarely in the middle of the sized lots, between 20 and 30,000 square feet, where most of the lots fall. The houses in the neighborhood none of them are much larger or much smaller than what's being proposed here. And certainly the size of the dwelling that's being proposed, 2,262 square feet is not exceptionally large for the neighborhood. And because it meets with all of the setbacks, and some of them quite well, you can see to the east, it'll be more than 38 feet distant and more than 50 feet distance to the south, and will be barely visible from the street. Because the garage addition is taller by about 4.5 feet, there will from the road training field, the very peak of the garage will be visible, but other than that, the proposed addition will be hidden from the road. As to compatibility with neighboring properties in terms of scale and siting and mass, again, if we focus on the square footage of the project as proposed, it will only cover 13% of the lot, which is under the 15% that is allowed as a matter of right. And again, if any of you have driven through the neighborhood, you'll see that there are many changes that are going on in the neighborhood, all of which involve people improving their properties. And at this point, this property could benefit from just such an improvement. It will not affect any of the neighbors because there are no roads that will have to be accessed to get to the properties. It's being built right in the center of the lot, pretty much, and it will be in keeping with the neighborhood as it's changing. Obviously, the house is larger, reflecting much of what we all experience: larger kitchens, larger bathrooms, larger garages. All of those, of course, have changed since 1971. And finally, the adequacy of the utilities to meet the needs of these owners and without any detriment to their neighboring owners. Again, the utilities being, the lot being on a public road, there are certainly adequate utilities. The access is directly from a public way. And the other noteworthy aspect of the project is that the Beekmans are going to be putting in a brand new septic system, replacing the old 1971 system. And they've decided to add the denitrifying technology, which what they call an IA system, which although it has a slightly more expense, it is certainly better for the groundwater below the site. And so with those thoughts, the applicants would ask for the board's consideration of their request and approval.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Farber. I would ask that, is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate on the screen so that Sarah can recognize you.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor of this application.
Okay, I'll read the correspondence, which is one piece from Judith Giorgio. It's a memo. She writes on 4/20, I've reviewed the plan to renovate. The property was approved by the Board of Health for a 3-bedroom septic system with a nitrogen reducing component. The bonus room over the garage, as shown in your plan, is not acceptable by the Health Division, as it meets the definition of a 4th bedroom. Changes to the floor plan must be made prior to approval by the Health Division. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak either against or has a specific question? If so, please indicate on the screen now.
I am not seeing anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to this application.
Or has a question?
Or has a question.
Okay. All right. So questions from the board. Dave Veach.
Dave Veach has no questions.
Paul,
Paul Semple has no questions.
Buck,
Buck has no questions.
Dave Thompson,
Dave Thompson has no questions.
Dennis,
Dennis Sullivan, I have no questions.
Megan,
Megan Story has no questions.
Bill.
Bill Grau has no questions.
Well, that leaves it up to me. Peter,
Yes.
the business about the bonus room and all that kind of stuff, being a fourth bedroom, what are you going to do about that?
Well, I should have reviewed the correspondence because it was my understanding that the plan was approved as it is.
Well, I don't think so. I'll read it again. The property was approved by the Board of Health for a 3-bedroom septic system with a nitrogen reducing component. The bonus room over the garage, as shown in your plan, is not acceptable by the Health Division as it meets the definition of a fourth bedroom. Changes to the floor plan must be made prior to approval by the Health Division. So in other
Right.
words, she does not think what you want to do is appropriate.
No, I understand. I mean, her letter is clear. And so I would have to go back to my client before any building permit is issued, or I think the health permit is already issued, frankly. And so that's why I'm a little bit surprised by the letter. But clearly, if the Board of Health requires that one of the existing bedrooms be removed, there are 2 in the existing home. And of course, the master bedroom in where the garage is presently would be a 3rd bedroom. And then if the bonus room, which is a very strange term, is going to be considered a bedroom, then obviously there's 4 bedrooms in that house, and 1 would have to be eliminated. I guess I would ask if the ZBA can approve the plan based on not so much the floor plans, because I don't think the ZBA ever approves floor plans, but
No.
based on the increased footprint of the structure and its setting on the lot, and withhold any approval relative to number of bedrooms. That's the best the applicant can ask for at this time.
Yeah, and incidentally, even if we approve it, you're not going to get the green light unless the Board of Health does. So I think you're right about the bonus room. And that is a term, I think it was invented by Mr. Riley and Mr. Marsh, if I'm not mistaken. So, because I like to use that term all the time. Anyway, so maybe if we could possibly approve this, but with making sure that the bonus room was not a garage. The bonus room would not be a bedroom, would be part of our conditioning, and that might satisfy you and them and everybody else. So I guess we'll go forward with that. Okay. So we let's go into deliberations, Paul.
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need to vote on that. Dave?
Veach votes yes.
Paul?
Apple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson votes yes.
And myself. Okay, deliberations. Paul?
Well, I think the project is a good one, and I think they should be able to go forward. I don't think that we should necessarily say that the bonus room cannot be a bedroom. I think what we perhaps should say is that the number of bedrooms will be limited to what is approved by the Board of Health. That way, if they want to eliminate one of the other bedrooms, they can do that.
Good for them. Yeah, right. Okay, now that's a great solution, Paul. I like that very much. Okay, Buck.
I'm thinking the same way Paul is again, but just slightly different. Maybe they could join they can leave the 2 bedrooms that were built in the original house, but just 2 applications, and I think it was the one on Stony Hill, they had a bonus room over their garage, and the way they made it a bonus room was they had a 5-foot doorway. So
Yeah.
if these applicants were to say we would put a 5-foot doorway in, then it would be 3 bedrooms. Is that correct? I'm asking that, or I don't know in deliberations. That's what I'm thinking, but I'm supporting it.
Yeah. Well, that's true, but we'll let them figure that out. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, fine. Okay. Dave Thompson.
I agree with the others on this.
Dennis.
The only thing that would bother
sorry.
me,
I didn't-
that's okay.
Yeah.
I know that you have a problem with certain things that are on buildings. Would you take a look at the garage roof? Enough said.
Oh my God. I'm horrified. I'm horrified. Oh. Oh. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. All right. So thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, I also picked that up when Peter said you were going to see the peak of the garage, you were also going to see the cupola. But I figured our chairman would have seen that, but apparently he didn't. If I were voting, I
man.
certainly would vote in favor of it.
I was sound asleep. All right, Megan.
I would also vote in favor of it, provided it's not a glowing light in the cupola.
Yeah, no. There's 4 different colors up there, depending on the time of day.
Light show.
It's like the John Hancock building, flashes red when it's going to snow and all that kind of stuff. Bill.
Yeah, maybe another solution is, a thought when they go to the Board of Health is, they didn't even show on the plan when I looked at it again where the new septic system is going to be on the site that I could find. But, maybe they just didn't do enough testing to get a 4-bedroom home approved instead of a 3. That maybe that might be a way of not having to deal with the bonus room. I don't know, just throwing it out there. But other than that, I would certainly support this.
Yeah, it's probably more of a design of how old is the system, something like that. Dave Veach.
Yeah, well, it certainly meets all of our criteria. And, I think assuming we approve, which I certainly am going to vote for. I think there are probably ways that they can address, within the building as it's shown, they might be able to open up to the garage or something. I'm not sure, but I don't think we need to really condition with respect to that room because they're going to need to meet the requirements of the Board of Health one way or the other. And I don't think we even need to weigh in on it, really. So that's my 2 cents, but it's a nice project and I will approve it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Peter, this cupola
Yes.
is out of control in relation to the rest of the house.
I understand that. And the ship on top.
Yes. So can we cross it out?
Of course.
Thank you very, very much. Okay. All right. Oh, my God. Mr. Thompson, I owe you a Coca-Cola, I guess, or something like that. Right. So, all right. Dave Veach brings up an interesting point. Do we need to worry about what the Board of Health says or not? Paul, what do you think?
Well, I normally wouldn't bother with it because the Board of Health is going to control that situation anyhow. But
right.
since it was raised and there hasn't been a revision to the plan so far, I think if we simply condition it on the fact that the number of bedrooms will be as approved by the Board of Health, that covers the issue.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay. So can we have a motion, please, from you, Paul, with that and also eliminating the cupola?
Well, we haven't really had a full discussion of the cupola, but I guess
I'm not going to allow it.
We're not going to allow it. That's what I figured. Yes. This is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the application as submitted, with the exception that the cupola, I guess, will be eliminated, and that the Number of bedrooms in the home will be as determined by the Board of Health. And then I guess we would also have all construction activity and vehicles to be contained on site.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Dave Veach seconds. I'm not so sure about the cupola part, but I'll second it anyway. So.
Okay. And for Megan and Bill, I detest cupolas, and that's why I got that thrown in there. Okay. Anyway, all right. So that's a motion been made. It's been seconded. So we need the vote. Dave Veach.
Veach votes yes.
Paul.
Temple votes yes.
Buck.
Buck votes yes, and I hope the applicants leave the weather vane.
Yeah, well, we didn't talk about that. They could certainly do that. Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson votes yes and apologizes to the Veekmans.
No, and I certainly vote most. And thank you very much, Peter Farber. Glad to have you back with us, and take what was said about the ship. Put the weather vane up there, okay?
Yes, indeed.
So, thank you very much.
And this is Bruce Veekman. I would like to thank the board for their consideration today.
Well, thank you, Bruce. It's a great project, and I hope you don't mind what I said about the cupola. Okay. All right. So let's move on, gang, to 21-029.
Application number 21-029, Jessica Gowan, Philip Chu, care of William F. Riley, Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owners of property located at 73 Kent Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessors Map 12J, Block 26, Lot G4. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling, garage, shed, and pool, and the construction of a new dwelling and pool. The existing dwelling is non-conforming and that it is located 10 feet from the Coastal Conservancy District, 22.8 feet from an unnamed way. The existing pool is non-conforming and that it is located 3 feet from the Coastal Conservancy District. The existing garage is non-conforming and it is located 20.4 feet from the southwesterly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The proposed dwelling will be non-conforming and that it will be located 8 feet from the Coastal Conservancy District, and the proposed pool will be non-conforming and that it will be located 27 feet from the Coastal Conservancy District where a 50-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 2,933 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 2,990 square feet, where 3,000 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot contains 43,500 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Chatham Protected Bylaw.
Good afternoon, Bill Riley, on behalf of Jessica Gua and Philip Chu. And I always just tell my clients, don't show the cupola, just add it later.
Yeah, but tell them I'm going to drive by every Sunday afternoon.
I know it. 6:44, 6:45. We should be already on our second martini.
Well, you know what? You're right. You're right, Mr. Riley. Anyway,
Okay, so
we started the day with you. We're going to end the day with you. So here we go.
all right, so it's a good day for you guys. All right.
It is.
So this is a project where the prior owner had gone to the trouble of getting a bulkhead approved, which made the property actually sort of viable for purchase. And Jessica and Philip loved the view from the top, from the property.
Mm-hmm.
And they were informed Dave Clark is with us. Teresa Sprague, unfortunately, is on vacation, the nerve of these people. And Karen Kempton is our architect. So so we worked hard, primarily with the Conservation Commission, because as you can tell, this is a difficult site with the steepness of the bank. The existing pool was a result of modification of the slope to set the pool where it is. And a significant part of this project is removing that pool and restoring the bank to its original contours. And the work that Teresa Sprague did is that virtually everything seaward of the structures on the property, oh, thank you very much, Sarah, is mitigation planting. So all invasives are going to be removed, and as I say, the contours are going to be restored, and all native plantings are going to be placed there. So I think what I'd like to do at this point would be to have Karen go through the design aspects, and then Dave Clark's also available if you have questions regarding grading and the like.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Karen. Welcome. We haven't heard from you in a while, so hope everything's well.
That's true. Good evening. I'm Karen Kempton, architect for Jessica Guo and Philip Chu. Sarah, can you pull up the site plan that I sent this morning? That's the shaded one with the existing shaded. Okay, so if you can see on this plan, the red outline of the existing house and the existing pool in comparison to our footprint. When I met with Jessica and Philip last year in March of 2020, we discussed the pros and cons of renovating the building versus building new on this property. The existing house was built in 1960 and is basically a ranch with vaulted ceilings along the length of the house. There are only 2 small bedrooms upstairs at the wider section of the house, which is sort of in the middle of the house, that wider T intersection. And only one bedroom faces the water, the other bedroom faces the driveway. The existing house also has a detached garage at the south side of the property. The existing kidney-shaped pool and concrete patio are adjacent to the top of bank. Given all these issues, it became clear that a new structure and pool would be more beneficial to the owners and would decrease the negative environmental impact that the existing house and the pool have on the property. So we propose moving the house back and canting the house so it is further back from the top of bank. The pool is also proposed to be moved back from the top of the bank 27 feet, where 3 feet is the existing setback. The length of the house facing the water is the same length as the existing house. The pool is elevated to the first floor level, but rather than bringing in fill for a patio, a wraparound deck is proposed and an infinity edge of the pool facing the water. The contours along the private way, which is the abutter's driveway, do not change. So there will be no excavation or fill required along the property line. In fact, all the trees adjacent to the private way will remain. Pulling the house and the pool back is a positive change to the no disturb zone. The chairman of the Conservation Commission agreed that this project was more beneficial to the property, and moving the pool back is a significant improvement. She went on to add, quote, a renovation would be less environmentally beneficial and harmful to the property. The existing structures are more impactful, and the proposal ends in a net benefit to the resource area. Sarah, if you could pull up the front elevation of the house. As to the design of the house, Jessica and Philip wanted a gambrel roof line, as they thought the Johnson house next door is quite an attractive house, but wanted something on a smaller scale. The gambrel roof line, as you know, allows for a lower ridge line, as more second floor space can be captured under the roof line. The ridge is just 27 feet from top of foundation, which conforms to the allowed building height. The structure of the new house is only 6 feet higher than the structure of the existing house, but yet allows for a complete second floor. As the house sits at the end of Kent Road, it is not visible to the public unless someone is specifically visiting the property. The garage is attached to the house at the right side, so bisecting the house and making the front entry portion of the house the 22-foot length and the left wing of 15 feet, the only visible structure from the driveway. If we go to the left elevation and then the rear elevation, the grade drops gently around the house and only a portion of the finished basement is visible. Even on the rear elevation, there is no full walkout, with the grade meeting the windowsill and exposing only 5 feet of the basement wall rather than a full 10 feet. This helps to diminish the scale of the house by using the existing contours. So by using the length of the house, the existing footprint, we are adding a second floor, and all bedrooms face the water, which was a key factor for the clients. The screen porch on the north side of the house has a second floor balcony rather than an extension of the second floor. So this adds a nice bookend to the house and softens the structure. If we go back to the planting plan, we hope that you agree that this house is not detrimental to the neighborhood or the property, as the footprint of the existing structure and the footprint of the new house are similar in size, 2933 square feet to 2990 square feet, which is a 57 square foot increase. And although the minimal change to coverage, 10.2 to 10.4%, we are still under the allowed coverage. Additionally, we feel the proposed size of the structure on the actual lot size of 43,500 square feet, or 6.8% coverage, is visually in scale for the property. The new house conforms to all the sideline setbacks and is 86 feet back from Kent Road. As mentioned before, we think this proposal has a net benefit to the property and can be seen by the removal of invasive species and the addition of mitigation plantings as shown on Teresa's plan. So we hope that you agree that this is an attractive addition to the neighborhood and a positive impact to the existing property. And that's my presentation.
Thank you very much, Karen. Excellent presentation.
As always.
Oh, yes, that's right. Although I missed the virtual, the trip around the house. Anyway, so
yes.
You have anything else to add to that, Mr. Riley, or no?
Just one thing, if Sarah would show the plan that's got shaded in red, the original. All right. So the one thing I want to point out is, we talk about, the pool being, and the patio being 3 feet from the top of the bank. Actually, the top of the bank before the pool was up above the pool, and the property owner in, I think, 1980 dug out that area so they could put a pool there. And so one of the benefits here is the restoration of the grading of the original bank. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, no. And that was, when I went to the back of the house and looked down, I thought, what is going on here? So thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so I would ask, is there anybody in the audience out there that would like to speak in favor of this? If so, please indicate on the screen so that Sarah can recognize you.
Dave, you don't want me to go through my lengthy zoning bylaw analysis?
No, thank you very much. Karen did a great job.
Mr. Riley, you can email that to me so I have a copy of it for the file.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go.
The benefits of being at 7 o'clock.
That helps, and she did a great job. Make sure you increase her fee.
Absolutely.
All right. So anyway, anybody out there want to speak in favor of this project?
I do not see anyone that wishes to speak in favor of this application.
Okay, then I'll read the correspondence. First, we have Judith Giorgio, Board of Health, 421. She writes, I've reviewed the plan to demo and rebuild the dwelling. The property has a new Title V system for a 5-bedroom dwelling. The dwelling proposed is a 5-bedroom dwelling and therefore is acceptable. A new septic tank will need to be relocated to meet the required setbacks to the proposed dwelling. And then we have, then we have a letter. This is from Paul and Judy Peterson, 79 Kent Road. They write on April 14th. We would like to take the opportunity as abutters to the above project to express our objection to the scale and scope of the project. It seems to be a very large overreach for this non-conforming structure located within a coastal conservancy district. Our view is straightforward and, as expressed here, was similarly communicated to the Conservation Commission. If one buys a house constructed in the Coastal Conservancy District prior to today's rules governing the zone, one should be constrained to not expand the footprint of the building or disturb the landmass further in any material way. If an exception is allowed and a variance granted, it should only be granted if the resulting work materially improves the site as a result of the construction and not because of the personal wish list of the property owners. In our opinion, this project as presented does nothing in this regard. The discussion regarding the applicant's pool issues cannot possibly rise to a level of importance to subjugating zoning rules. What possible benefit to the property can come from the expansion of the pool, deck, and patio to over 2,000 feet? This house has a full basement. The demolition and excavation of the house, existing brick, concrete, patios, and especially the pool, which largely sits on the coastal bank, represents an extraordinary devastation to this non-conforming dwelling and landmass. In 2013, we completely renovated 79 Kent Road, with the dwelling structure expanded by only 200 feet. In addition, we undertook an extensive land management plan, which included the removal of all invasive plants on the coastal bank and voluminous native plantings beyond that which was required of us. We hope that this project follows the same respect for the land mass in this sensitive environmental location, and that they elect to pursue the restrained version of the alternative site plan they submitted to the Conservation Commission and obviously have thought about. The reference to the unnamed way is our deeded driveway, which the applicant's engineer and attorneys are aware. We lost a significant level of structural land support to the driveway during the 2019 construction of the adjacent property at 23 Rover Run. We then had to spend $7,000 to reinforce and stabilize our driveway. We don't wish to experience this again. Lastly, we would request that whatever construction is undertaken on this property, that our Kent Road driveway entrance and the entirety of Kent Road and Cold Hill Road be kept clear at all times of construction vehicles. Kent Road is barely 1 lane wide. The Conservation Commission's order of conditions pertaining to the construction of the adjacent 23 Rover Road property in 2019 specified no parking on Kent Road, which the contractor throughout the process ignored. This became a problem for us in assessing our property for an entire year. And again, respectfully submitted, Paul and Judy Peterson, 79 Kent Road. And we also have a letter from the Conservation Commission. They write on April 8th. Again, this is from Nicole Smith, our new conservation agent. And she goes by Nikki Smith, I guess. 73 Kent Road, order of conditions was approved at the April 7th, 2021 work session and will be issued within the next 21 days. If there are any changes made to the plan due to zoning, they need to discuss with the Conservation Department on what they may need to be filed. Okay, that's the extent of the correspondence, so I would ask that if there's anybody in the audience who wishes to speak either against this project or has a specific question, to now indicate on the screen so that Sarah can recognize you.
I see no one that has a specific question or wishes to speak in opposition.
Okay, Mr. Riley, would you like to respond to the letter that I just wrote from the neighbors at 79 Kent?
Well, I agree with their concern about access to their property, and certainly acknowledge that it would be appropriate for there to be a condition that no construction vehicles be parked in Kent Road. And that, their driveway be kept clear. With regard to, the statement that only projects that improve the situation should be approved, it's also appropriate and, in fact, reflects what this project is. Karen quoted Janet Williams, who's the chair of the Conservation Commission, that a renovation of the existing property would not benefit the property at all. And the removal of the pool and the extensive mitigation plantings all constitute a very significant benefit to the environment. That's why this project was approved by the Conservation Commission. And so I believe that, as you say, Karen's presentation said it all. I don't believe I believe the points raised by the Petersons are sort of inapposite, because the Conservation Commission believes this is an improvement environmentally to the site. And certainly, a structure that doesn't touch the maximum height, but provides living space for this family. In terms of, what's the visual impact of the structure? Well, it's only going to be visible from Riders Cove, and well, it's certainly up at the top of a hill. The fact that the entire bank's going to be planted, there will be some significant trees. They won't really block the house because the trees just aren't that tall. But as Karen pointed out, the roof is below the maximum height. But it's a handsome design, and it's certainly more attractive than the existing design. The only advantage the existing design has is it's basically one story. So I think that this is a project that has huge improvements environmentally, and the structure itself, including the pool and deck, are not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing project, which is all masonry and all located on the coastal bank itself. So, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to questions from the board. Let's start with Dave Thompson.
Thank you. I have no questions for Bill.
Dennis.
Dennis Sullivan. No, I have no questions at this point. Thank you.
Megan.
I also have no questions at this point.
Bill.
I have no questions either.
Dave Each.
Dave Each has no questions.
Paul.
Paul has no questions.
Buck.
I have one question for Bill. The southwest corner of the proposed house is 8 feet from the top of the bank,
That's correct.
and it was 10.
Well, if you actually, if you look at the site plan, our southwest corner is 8 feet from the retaining wall, and the previous, the existing building's 10 feet from the top of the bank without a retaining wall. So in terms of protecting the top of the bank, it's a small increase in non-conforming nature, but this is what happened when, as Karen indicated, they rotated the building back away from the top of the bank. And so the end result of that was this corner got pushed 2 feet closer to the top of the bank. But in the main, as you can see from the existing building, the bulk of the building is now far behind the existing structure.
Thank you. And did conservation even discuss the overdig that would be involved with putting in a new foundation, disturbing on the west side of the house to the top of the bank, and all the equipment that goes with it going around?
I don't recall having a discussion like that, but they were certainly concerned about the construction, but the retaining wall that's shown there, and I don't know if Dave Clark's online, maybe he could expound on that a little bit. Right now, there's really nothing there. There's an old staircase that went down to the adjoining property, and so the retaining wall is going to protect the top of that bank. So all I can say is, it's a construction detail that they did not discuss. They were a lot more concerned with the removal of all the masonry on the coastal bank. I would say that's the principal focus, although they did talk about the retaining wall, and that was something that he had to specifically approve.
Thank you.
Dave Clark is president. If Dave would unmute himself and so I don't remember discussing that aspect, but that would have been more Dave than me.
Mm-hmm. Dave, you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, great. Hi, Dave. Yes, welcome.
Hi.
And you heard Buck's concern?
Yes. That portion of the property, specifically where the retaining wall is going, is all filled land. You can see from the plan that the contours are kind of tight together. So that's not really a naturally occurring bank, but nevertheless, I understand Buck's concern. We are actually filling a little bit on that corner. That's the reason for the retaining wall. So during the construction of the foundation, I doubt more than 5 feet from the top of the excavation down to the footings would be exposed at any one time. And then when it comes time for backfilling, obviously there'll be some care required to get around that corner to backfill it.
Okay, Buck, is that a good answer for you? Or you have another question?
Well, I have other issues, but it'll come up under deliberation.
Okay, yeah. Very good. Okay, so Paul, a motion, please.
Yeah, this is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need to vote on that. Dave Veach?
Veach votes yes.
Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Okay, and I vote yes. So, deliberations, let's start with Dennis.
If I were voting, I certainly would vote in favor of it. I think it's a great environmental project, and I think it's a great zoning board project. It meets all our criteria, and as I said, if I were voting, I would vote in favor of it.
Megan.
Sorry, there was a little crash at home.
All right. Okay.
I too would vote for it. I definitely think it's a nice project. I think it's an improvement from an environmental standpoint, and I like the project, especially located where it is.
Bill.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it is a major improvement, especially with the supplemental plan with the plantings and other landscaping that they're going to do. I think Buck's concern about that corner is very valid and maybe needs to be addressed in the construction phase to get that wall in place sooner rather than later. I also think that some consideration should be given to the neighbor here in some condition with the timing and protecting them from what appears to have been other disruption to their driveway from the construction of their home. But I would certainly support this as well.
Dave Veach.
Yeah, I certainly, when I read the letter from the Petersons, I really took a much closer look, and I just don't think their take on it, and I remember the project that they did, which was very nice and well done, but I think that I don't think, well, first of all, with respect to what Bill just said, I think that their issue with the driveway was with the construction of the house on the other side, which is actually below the level of their driveway. And I don't think this project is going to have the same effect at all. And Karen kind of indicated that they weren't going to disturb anything along that line. I really like the idea of getting rid of that old pool down there on the bank. I think that's a tremendous improvement for the environment. And the CONSCOM is in favor of this, and I certainly am as well. It meets all of our criteria. It's not substantially more detrimental, and I will support it.
Paul.
Yes, this is Paul Semple. I agree with Dave Veach's comments, and it seems to me that the Petersons should not have the trouble with this project that they had with the prior one that affected their driveway. As long as we can keep vehicles off of parking on Kent, except perhaps at that white end of Kent where it says, please park here, which is beyond their driveway, that may be usable, but other than that, keeping construction vehicles off of Kent Road makes sense.
Buck.
Well, here I am going again. Different than what was pointed out, Judy Peterson served on the Chatham Conservation Commission for 3 or 4 years, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And she was respected as one of the most educated and well-spoken about the benefits of protecting the bank. Their house, they have firsthand experience of having the bank restored, and the thing still slumped, and they had a lot of trouble. And there were issues there that she didn't go into in the letter. I haven't talked to her about it, but I have very strong support for her. She isn't a butter, and I know her as I know her and Paul as a fair and equitable people. If they're not in favor of it, I will not be supporting it.
Okay. Okay. From my perspective, is this substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood? I don't think so. Despite what Buck just said, which is all very important and very interesting, but looking at the specifics that these folks want to do in relation to what's there, they're moving the house back. They're eliminating that pool that is halfway down the hill, which is a terrible thing. So I can't see that I could ever consider this to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Everything they want to do, with the exception of maybe that corner that we were talking about, is a huge plus. It's just a plus. It's getting it back. It's moving it back. So I will be voting in favor. Conditioning, I think it's very important that we keep all construction vehicles off of Kent. And also, they had a good point. The Petersons had a good point about keeping them off of Cove Hill, if I have the correct name of the street. We should have
I think it's Colville Circle. That's where you guys approved the house for the Quinns that is currently under construction by Rick Roy.
Yeah, Okay, it's Cove Hill Road. Okay, Kent Road and Cove Hill Road. I would think we'd want a condition to keep all construction vehicles off of those two. The rest of it, I'm not too sure. Paul, do you disagree with that?
Mr. Chairman,
Well, yes.
no vehicles on Kent Road from the Peterson's property line to Route 28. But above their driveway, as Paul pointed out, there is space to park several vehicles, and that's where they would be parking. So they're not blocking access to the Petersons in any way.
Well, that's true, but and actually that's where I parked when I was up there. But I got the impression that space was there for visitors, whoever they might be, for that area. So I didn't take it to be specifically for this address. So I would hate to allow those things to be.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the sign was put up by the Van Nests when they owned the property.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, there's no public access anywhere. I mean, that wasn't,
Well, it's just down the hill. You'd need to kind of, get your donkey out and down you go. Okay. All right. So back around. Paul, what do you think of the wording of a condition?
Well, I think it makes sense to word it such that there's no parking of construction vehicles on Kent Road from the Peterson's property line on down to Route 28, or for that matter on Cove Hill Circle. That whole area there is the area that we're concerned about because it's so narrow and it needs to be protected.
So do we need to name every, there's Cove Hill Road, there's Cove Hill something else? Do we need to name them all or no?
Well, I guess.
But, Mr. Chairman, I have a suggestion. If you say construction vehicles may only be parked above the Peterson property line to the end of Kent Road and on the applicant's property.
Okay, I would accept that.
Yeah, I guess that's why he gets the big bucks, huh?
Yeah, he gets the big bucks, but he's gonna have to give it all to Karen Kempton, so forget it.
Okay, so just for clarification, you're going from past the Peterson's driveway down to the cul-de-sac?
Yeah, and which might be 20 feet or something like that, Sarah.
No, there's no.
Or maybe that's a driveway. Our maps are a little off.
No, Sarah, there's no cul-de-sac. We're talking about
the end of the road.
Maybe 100 feet at the end, the tail end of Kent Road, where, I mean, on the assessor's maps and stuff, it shows like it keeps going around, but it doesn't. It ends just past the driveway for this property.
Yeah, and it's like 3 parking spaces or something like that, correct?
Yeah, that's all.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So is that okay, Sarah? Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Paul, let's circle back, and we need a motion that would include this condition.
All right, well, this is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the application as submitted with the condition that was just stated by Sarah.
Okay, Sarah, would you please read that back?
Okay.
Why don't I read it back?
Yes, because I'm still attempting to write as quickly as possible.
Okay,
right, so
take your time. Take your time. There's no rush.
okay, so the parking will only be allowed from the Peterson's property line extended across Kent Road to the very end of the paved section of Kent Road and on the applicant's property.
All set.
Okay. Okay, Paul. please
So I
make the motion again.
I'll
So,
move to approve the application as submitted with that condition.
Dave Veach
Okay.
second.
All right, we need to vote. Dave Veach,
Veach votes yes.
Paul,
Campbell votes yes.
Buck,
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson,
Dave Thompson votes yes.
and I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote, Mr. Riley. And Karen, thank you both very much.
Well, thank
Okay.
you, and enjoy your cocktails tonight.
Well, I'm
Thank
gonna
you very
try.
much.
I know I will.
All right. I'm sure you will. Okay. Other business, we have some minutes to approve. Any comments? Any motions?
Well, this is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the minutes as submitted.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need to vote on that. Dave Veach,
Veach votes yes.
Paul,
Campbell votes yes.
Buck,
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson,
Dave Thompson votes yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, everybody gets to vote. Dave Veach,
Veach votes yes.
Paul,
Semple votes yes.
Buck,
Buck votes yes.
Dave Thompson,
Dave Thompson votes yes.
Dennis,
Sullivan votes yes.
Megan,
Dory votes yes.
Bill.
Rob votes yes.
Okay, and I vote yes, and I thank you all. You get a 3-week vacation. Can you believe it?
We are officially adjourned at 7:24 p.m. and your packets for May 13th will be out in the box for you on Monday.